Welcome to the FPR Method. Before we learn forensic astrology, I want you to think back to the very first day of college. Not high school, college. In high school, life was simple. You went to the same building every day. You knew your classrooms, you knew your teachers, you knew the hallways. You knew where the lunch was, and you knew exactly where you belonged. And then one day, you graduated. And a few months later, you stepped onto a college campus. Someone hands you a schedule. You glance down at it. You see Science Hall, Building C, Room 214, Humanities, Student Union, Biology Lab, Gymnasium, Chemistry Building, and then suddenly you're panicked. You realize you don't know anybody. Maybe you had looked at the campus map once, and maybe you had watched a campus tour online. But now you were standing in the middle of campus thinking, holy crap, what if I'm late to class? What if I walk into the wrong building? Will everyone else around me know where they're going? What if I fall behind? What if nobody likes me? Why am I even here? And honestly, is the cafeteria food even safe to eat? Your imagination started creating problems that didn't even exist yet. Now, let's replace that class schedule with an astrology chart. The first time most people open a chart, their brain does the exact same thing. Oh my gosh, what if I get this wrong? How will I know if I'm reading it correctly? And am I going to look stupid? How am I ever going to remember all of these symbols? And what if I forget just one placement? Does that ruin the whole reading? What if I completely miss something important? Sound familiar? Almost every astrologer you have ever met has had those exact same thoughts, including me. The good news is none of those fears have anything to do with astrology. They come from looking at something unfamiliar. Because here's what actually happens. A week into college, someone says, hey, meet me in the library, and you don't even think about it. I'll see you in biology, no problem. Lunch at the Student Union? You're already walking there. The campus never changed. The science building never moved. The library stayed exactly where it was. The gym stayed exactly where it had always been. The cafeteria didn't relocate. Nothing changed except you. You learned the map. And that's exactly what you're about to do here. You're not memorizing hundreds of disconnected meanings. You're learning a campus. The chart is your campus. The 12 sections are the buildings. The planets are the professors. And the zodiac signs are each professor's unique teaching style. Nothing moves. Nothing changes. The only thing that does change is the story unfolding on that campus. By the end of this course, you'll stop looking at a chart wondering, what am I looking at? Instead, you'll look at it the same way a college senior walks across campus, without thinking, because once you know that map, you stop worrying about getting lost. You start paying attention to what's happening inside each building. And that's where forensic astrology begins. Now, I want to tell you something. The story that I just told you, that was me. I was standing on that campus, except my campus was astrology. I was the new person, and everyone around me seemed to understand what the teachers were talking about. People threw around words like rulerships, aspects, essential dignities, progressions, returns. Everyone nodded. Everyone seemed to understand. So I did what everyone else was doing. I smiled. I nodded. I pretended I understood too. I kept thinking, eventually it'll click. Eventually I'll catch on. But it didn't. And not because astrology was too difficult, but because the way it was being taught to me wasn't the way my brain learns. I have a learning disorder. And now if I can't build a system, if I can't recognize a pattern, I'm constantly looking through my notes, trying to remember what I just learned. I wasn't failing because I couldn't learn astrology. I was failing because nobody was teaching it in a way my brain could understand. And to make matters worse, I was told I'd never become a good astrologer. People actually laughed at me and made fun of me. And now looking back, maybe they were right because I wasn't interested in compatibility. I wasn't interested in personality readings, and I wasn't trying to find my soulmate. I was interested in one thing: secrets. I had already spent 25 years studying criminology. I was fascinated by criminal investigations, cold cases, death investigations, human behavior. And looking back, the clues had always been there. I just hadn't connected them yet. And then one day, everything changed. I was watching the news, and then several criminal cases that were being discussed were right there on the screen. And I happened to have an astrology chart sitting beside me, and one question entered my mind: could this chart solve a crime? And that single question changed my life. And I wondered, if I knew the exact moment a crime occurred, could I compare that moment to the transits of someone I believed committed it? Because if you think about it, most of us lead pretty ordinary lives. One day blends into the next. We wake up, we go to work, we run errands, we eat dinner, we go to bed. And then we do it all again tomorrow. Nothing extraordinary really happens. But what if one day someone decides to commit a triple homicide? Then something changed, right? Something in that person's life, their thinking, their circumstances, or their state of mind shifted enough to produce an extraordinary event. I set out to know what changed. Not everything, just that one thing. What looked different from all the ordinary days that came before it? If I could find that one small difference, maybe I could zoom in on it. Maybe the chart wasn't just recording the event, maybe it was teaching me why it happened. That became my new obsession. And today we call that an event chart. Now, at that time, I didn't know anyone else was doing it. I simply started testing the idea. And then something incredible happened. The symbols disappeared. All I could see were patterns. And one particular case kept showing Neptune everywhere. So I asked myself, what does Neptune really mean? Not the poetic other version of astrology, the other side that I wasn't interested in. What was the practical definition? So I started reading every keyword I could find, and one word jumped off the page: poison. And I went back to the case. The victim had been poisoned. And then I noticed something else. Neptune wasn't alone. Saturn kept appearing beside it. So I asked another question: what does Saturn mean? It means restriction, delay, slowness. So I put the two ideas together: Neptune, poison; Saturn, slow poisoning. I remember sitting there thinking, wait a minute, was this person being poisoned over time? And turns out she was. And that was the moment I knew I had found something much bigger than coincidence. So I buried myself into research, and I filled notebook after notebook, collected timestamps, and I studied criminal cases, compared charts, looked for repeated patterns, and every chart taught me something. Every case left another breadcrumb. And then one day I searched online, and two words appeared out of the blue: forensic astrology, right there, just blinking at me. And I literally said, no freaking way. Because up until that time, I had no idea forensic astrology already existed. So I contacted one of the authors and I asked questions. I read every book I could find. And for a little while, I honestly thought that I had invented the event chart. I hadn't. Other astrologers had already discovered many of the same patterns. And honestly, that excited me. It meant I wasn't imagining things. But after I actually read everything, and I mean everything there was out there on forensic astrology, I still felt something was missing. The book explained astrology. They didn't explain investigations, though. There wasn't a practical, repeatable forensic framework for criminal cases. So I went back to what I already knew. 25 years of criminology, behavior analysis, victimology, evidence, crime scene reconstruction, death investigation training. And little by little, those two worlds merged. Criminology and forensic astrology. Eventually, they became one repeatable investigative system. The system you're about to learn. The FPR method. So if you've ever struggled to learn astrology, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. If you ever thought there has to be an easier way to understand this, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And if you're more interested in uncovering the truth than predicting someone's love life, then you're definitely in the right classroom. Because that's why I built this method. Not to memorize astrology, to investigate it, to ask better questions, and to recognize patterns. To uncover stories hidden in plain sight. Welcome to the FPR method. Let's begin.
CSI changed how we saw crime. Forensic pattern recognition changes how we solve it. Learn how to identify suspect-victim dynamics, detect timeline distortions, flag inconsistencies in case data, and reconstruct a crime scene as if you were there when it happened. A system once used to track planetary motion has evolved into a modern investigative tool that exposes hidden patterns in criminal behavior known as the FPR method. The Forensic Pattern Recognition Program is designed for analysts, researchers, law enforcement, private investigators, and truth seekers searching for real answers. Train in as little as 6 months, self-paced, online. The future of CSI is here. Apply now at fprmethod.com and step into the future of forensic investigation.